my mask because I know they'll be, the pressure is going to hit them further this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, before I get into what I want to say to you, please note that we have to put some context into the fallacies that have been promulgated by the opposition. And I think such barefacedness will warrant them being in opposition for a very, very long time. Very, very long time. As a matter of fact, last year I said they were the permanent opposition. I think they're going to be the eternal opposition. Mr. Speaker, before His Excellency became the President, he had asked in the 110th session of the 11th Parliament this question to the Honorable Minister of Finance at that time. Based on this projection, inter alia, what would the increase in allocation for salary increases translate to in terms of percentage of salary increase? At 1:51 p.m., this is what the former Minister of Finance said, Winston Jordan. As I indicated, and I quote, "As I indicated, it would be presumptuous of me to suggest to the House that X% or Y% has been budgeted. As I said, we are awaiting the restart of negotiations with the teachers and the Guyana Public Service Union. And at that time, the percentages will be known." It is the same thing Dr. Ashni Singh and everyone else has been saying in this House over the last few days. It is the very approach that APNU is speaking out against now, their own approach that we are using to deal with this issue. Mr. Speaker, they also speak glowingly of the person who could not distinguish between Diwali and Pago as their champion of education. I just want to remind this House that in 1997, 1999, 2003, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, Guyana had the top CXC student. Who was the government then? And who was the Minister of Education then? Thank you, Priya Manikchan, Honorable Member. Mr. Speaker, the last few days we have listened to the opposition seeking to rewrite history. But I'm happy that we've had the opportunity to debunk what they have been claiming. I actually was thinking about preparing a speech this afternoon, but I decided against preparing a speech because in a debate, we have to respond to the make-believe of the opposition. When I was perusing the history, the track record of the APNUFC, Mr. Speaker, I had a look at their performance over the last 5 years. And you know what came to my mind? OMG. Oh my God. Shocking. That was the performance of the APNUFC. Totally shocking. That is how they perform. And you know, Mr. Speaker, they will continue on this path of discrimination, of political discrimination especially. But I want to share some facts with you. On a program called SLED, Sustainable Livelihood Entrepreneurial Development Program, administered by the last regime, the APNUFC, there is a member by the name of Henry in this House. Honorable member. But when I finish reading these figures, you will know for yourselves how honorable that honorable member is. $155,489,990 passed through for Region 9 under the name of a contact person, Vincent Henry. Mr. Speaker, and they speak about Amerindian development, and one name alone had, I don't even know if it actually went to that person, but it was a name, in excess of 155 million in 2019. Mr. Speaker, There is also another Vincent Henry Jr. in Shulinap Village. Over $5 million for one Vincent Henry Jr. There is also, Mr. Speaker, they speak about this class issue. I just heard the Honorable, is it Nima Flu or Nina Flu? Nima Flu spoke about this, and many others alluded to it. There is a name here called Christopher Jones. On this sheet, I'm going to share it with you publicly just now. Christopher Jones, Aubrey Barker Road, North Rhineville, Barbershop and Salon. Precision Cuts Barbershop and Salon. $4,985,000+. And here what else the Region 4 people receive. No one received more than $300,000 else. But that person received $4.9 million. Shame on them. And then they speak about helping poor people. The last government had no regard for poor people. They are only focused on self-aggrandizement. They speak ill of the COVID cash grant. You know why they speak ill of it, Mr. Speaker? Because they know the outpouring of goodwill that poor people and deserving people have given to our government in our distribution of the $25,000. Let me let you know also, Mr. Speaker, I have the record. Every single one of them or their family over there collected the $25,000. Including Ferguson, including Ramjatan, including Holder, including Mahipal, including Philadelphia, including Hemraj, including Ramsarup, including Pandit Father, including Karen Cummings, including Vincent Henry, including Christopher Jones, all honorable members of the House. All honorable members. They all collected it, Mr. Speaker. And then they come here and denigrate the same thing. Ungratefulness will have you in opposition for a very long time. That will have you in opposition for a very long time. But, Mr. Speaker, you know what else? You know what else they do, Mr. Speaker? They seek to denigrate the cash grant for the school children. We gave in 2014, is it? 167,000 school children, $10,000 each. $1.67 billion. The last regime, APNUFC, took away in excess of $8.3 billion from the school children of Guyana. And you know what they gave them? 167,000 school children in public schools, 14 boats and 20 buses. That is all that they gave them. And the buses, I don't think anyone worked for more than 2 months. 14 boats and 20 buses. That is what APNU AFC gave to the school children of Guyana. Shame on you. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? I was in the Rupununi recently. And you know what else? You know what the Amerindian people said, Mr. Speaker? They were asking me about this 5 Bs that Granger gave. And you know the former president, Granger, the one who's always absent. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? They were talking about the 5 Bs, and I said, yeah, I read about the 5 Bs. And then you know what one Amerindian guy said in Parabara, Mr. Speaker? He said, you know what? In Tong, they probably give the 5 Bs, but in Rupununi, they get 2 Bs. I asked, what 2 Bs? Bear blows. Bear blows. That is what happened to our school children. Bear blows. Right? But you know what else too, Mr. Speaker? You know, in 2020 or late 2019, 2020, when they were campaigning, all of what they're claiming about development happened actually when the PPP was in government after December 2018. You know the PPP was in government since December 2018. All right? You know the people, we voted you out. You know we voted you out. You know the famous 3 words? Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. And that is what has gotten you there. You know what else has gotten you there? You have lost trust with people. And you know why you have lost trust with people? Because you continue to say disbelieving things to them. And no one is going to support you. You have lacked commitment. You have lacked commitment. And we must not allow you, just the 31 rabble-rousers, to rewrite the history of this country. We are going to expose you at every single moment. Every single moment, we will expose you. Your inefficiency and your lack of competence have driven this country to despair. Some of you now speak about people losing jobs. Did you care when 7,000 sugar workers woke up one morning and lost their jobs? Have you ever visited any of those communities? Have you ever visited any of those families?
Honourable member, I will remind you that in this House, the address is also made to the chair of this House.
Mr. Speaker, they've never visited and see the despair in the eyes of those children. But they come here and speak of one or two instances without providing any evidence. And I genuinely believe a lot of what they're saying is make-believe. You know why? Because two members of parliament on the opposition side still sit as members of as public servants, including Ganesh Mahipal, who is not even in a seat right now, including Vince Roy Jordan. They are both public servants under the PPPC government. And for that, you should be ashamed to speak about members of the public service being fired. You know who we fired? We fired the political appointees. In the ministry that I'm the minister of, political appointees were fired. The MP for Region 5 from Apnu side, Mr. Speaker, he spoke about what is happening in Region 5.
Honourable Minister, I will again bring this to your attention that the members of this House are also addressed as honourable members.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Vince Roy Jordan spoke about Region 5. I can't say eloquently, but he made a lot of noise, the Honourable Member. So, Mr. Speaker, what the Honourable Member did not say about the famous, quote-unquote, famous, infamous demonstration farm, over $90 million were expended for a period of 4 years. And you know what is the produce? 1.8 million Guyana dollars worth of produce. After AP and UAFC invested over $90 million. Somebody, when the forensic audit is finished, somebody is gonna, you know what? But you know something, Mr. Speaker? You know why they're using state resources to buy bangles and bed sheets? Because in the very near future, bangles and bed sheets from the state, they're going to be locked in and wrapped in the prison. Many of them over there. That is why they're using state resources to buy bangles and buy bed sheets. Because we will continue to use state resources to put bangles around them and put them in prison. Those same sheets are going to be lying on in prison, Mr. Speaker. That is what will have to happen. And you know what the Honourable Vince Roy Jordan didn't say to Mr. Speaker? When he was a representative of GWI in Region 5, they started an office in Region 5 for $12 million. 3 years it took, and they've already expended over $72 million up to 2020 before we came into office. And that office is not yet complete. That office is, and then they come here, but then they're described as sanctimonious gangsters. So we cannot expect better of them because they're sanctimonious gangsters. Mr. Speaker, do you know that 2 members of parliament still occupy government quarters? Still occupy government quarters? 2 members of parliament on that. Mr. Speaker, I don't know if I could use this word in the parliament, but covetousness, Mr. Speaker, covetousness is a sin. Covetousness is one of the 7 deadly sins. They still, but they will be written to remove. And then, Mr. Speaker, I heard some rabble-rousing on the opposite side just now from Honourable Coretta MacDonald. But, Mr. Speaker, you know, Coretta MacDonald has been very close to the PPPC. And as a matter of fact, up to before Coretta MacDonald got on the list, Coretta MacDonald actually approached us to be on the list, the PPPC list. So, Mr. Speaker, let the opposition know. Let them know. Mr. Speaker, the initiatives of the People's Progressive Party Civic are about bringing people together. Our initiatives, Mr. Speaker, our budget is aptly designed to rebuild this country because of the destruction that happened in the last 5 years. In the In the 6 months that we've been in government, Mr. Speaker, we have done over 2,000 community meetings across the country. We have consulted from day one on Budget 2020 and Budget 2021. The only people who did not want to be involved in the consultation process, Mr. Speaker, are the 31 APNU AFC members of parliament. Those are the only people. In the regions, the councillors of the APNU AFC were consulted. In the regions, the villages that they claim ownership of, those were consulted. And as a matter of fact, the honorable member, name of Flu, who comes from, I think, Mocha, I want to state unequivocally that the people of Mocha are very, very excited that the People's Progressive Party Civic, that APNU AFC could not, neither the PNC could not, but the PBPC built Barnum Drive in Mocha. The PBPC had to go in Mocha and build Barnum Drive. Shame on you, because you could not uphold the legend of LFS Barnum, because none of you have the qualities of LFS Barnum. You know what? You are imposters. You are all imposters. You sit there warming the seat. And then, Mr. Speaker, they speak about democracy. They speak about democracy. Could you imagine APNU AFC come in this building and speak about democracy? Mr. Speaker, you were here yourself. And you know, Mr. Speaker, you know what happened in this building. Mr. Speaker, many of them were holding up photographs. They were holding up pictures. They were holding up toilet paper. Is it house proud you were using, Honorable Philadelphia? But, Mr. Speaker, none of them could hold up the SOPs. Where are the SOPs? If you speak about democracy, put your SOPs where your mouth there. Bring your SOPs here. You are never able. But you know what? We believe in democracy. And we believe that in a democracy, you must have a valid opposition. So we respect you as the valid opposition of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. You are the eternal opposition of our country. And God bless Guyana. Mr. Speaker, there is so many issues about efficiency. Mr. Speaker, tell me, what have they done for this country? What have they done for this country? When we walk around into the villages, Mr. Speaker, people cry and tell you. They went to ministers. They went to officials. They could never meet them. They could never see them. In Region 2, for example, Mr. Speaker, you know who used to control the regional tender board in Region 2? The guy father. Right? The PNC chairman used to control the tender board in Region number 2. Now we have professional tender boards. We have tender boards from the councils. We have inclusive tender boards. And you know what else we're doing, Mr. Speaker? In Budget 2021, every single village in this country, has an intervention. Every single village in this country will continue over the next 5 years to get more interventions. The President himself, when he spoke here, probably the best speech that has ever been made by a president in the Parliament of Guyana. Much better than what the last president did when he came here and blew hot and cold. All right? The president said he is going to visit every single village in this country. Because you know why? We are government of all Guyana. We are representing all of Guyana. I heard, and it hurt me, when I heard the chief whip, and when I heard the first speaker of the APNU AFC over the last few days speaking about representing their supporters. You are supposed to represent also the people of Guyana. But you know what? You are just stuck in the past. You are one-dimensional. And you know, many times when many of you come to me, you know that. And the things that you say here publicly, you say differently in person. Mr. Speaker, you know what else? In their regions, when I go visit the regions, and I visited all the regions, Mr. Speaker, the coalition councillors come to me and say, Minister Dharamlall, we got to work with you. Those people,
we made a lot of mistakes. They say, Mr. Speaker, you know, Mr. Speaker, in my office, Mr. Speaker, in my office, one of the persons who took, you know, one of the persons who made us stand here for 5 months, right? Who stood, held this country up for 5 months, came to my office seeking a job, seeking a contract. So I asked, oh, what's going on? And you know what she said, Mr. Speaker? That person said, Mr. Speaker, that despite them putting their name on that lawsuit, APNU has turned their back on them. That is what you do to poor people. You have turned your backs on poor people. And you know what? We are happy that the poor people have turned their backs on you. That is why the People's Progressive Party Civic is in government. A lot of you like to quote the Bible, but many of you have forgotten the famous saying. Many of you have forgotten the famous saying, a man without vision shall what? Ferguson, honorable member. A man without vision shall perish. All right? That is what the Bible, the good word says. A people without vision shall perish. And you know what is going to happen to those without vision? They're going to be in opposition for a very long time. We have to rebuild this country. We have to fix all the community roads. We have to make sure, but of course, Mr. Speaker, the AP and UFC, they do not understand what being poor is. You know why? Because they live the life of profligacy. They live the life of the elite. They drove in multi-million-dollar Land Cruisers. You know why roads could not be fixed? As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, in 3 months of the emergency budget, we were able to fix over 250 community streets into asphaltic concrete. You know what? And you know what APNU did? Instead of using the $1+ billion to fix those community roads, APNU bought Land Cruisers. So instead of them fixing the roads, they were driving with Land Cruisers that taxpayers paid for in the potholes that they created in those communities. But we are going to fix the roads because, you know, we build bridges, we don't burn bridges. That is our mantra. We have a different philosophy from these people in the opposition, Mr. Speaker, the AP and UFC. We have a budget that focuses on the poor, and we have a budget that also focuses on the businesses. Because our country cannot exist without it. Development cannot happen unless we have a pro-poor, pro-business budget. APNU does not understand that philosophy. That is why they fail this country. We have so many poor people in this country, and what have they done? 35,000 plus persons lost their jobs within the first 3 years of AP and UAFC. But they cannot come here and say that anymore. But so we have to remind the answered, and we have to remind the people of Guyana. The small miners, over 10,000 of them lost opportunities on the AP and UFC. And you know what they did? They formed the syndicates. And who owned the syndicates? A handful of AP and UAFC leaders. You know what else did? Well, we don't have to speak anymore about the sugar workers, right? Because Ramjitan, basically, honorable member, said that they were gullible. The chief whip of the opposition said that the sugar workers were bloodsuckers. I am the grandson of a cane cutter. And that cringes me. When in 2021, the people, when we are trying to modernize this country, they still have people who disrespect sugar workers, who disrespect cane cutters, who disrespect farmers in this country. The AP and UAFC, you have no role in the future of this country. With your current crop, you have no role in the future of this country. You cannot speak about competence. You cannot speak about competence, Mr. Speaker. In 6 months, if you go any village in this country and you speak to any single person, they breathe a sigh of relief that the last government was voted out of office. They breathe a sigh of relief. You know what they tell us, Mr. Speaker? They say what you've achieved in 6 months, it took the last government 5 years and they still can't achieve what you have achieved. Right? So, Mr. Speaker, we are going to rebuild Georgetown. You know, the AP and UFC left Georgetown to rot for many years. Between 2015 and 2020, Georgetown collected almost $13 billion in revenue. And this is the current situation in Georgetown. But we will find the president himself, one of the first things the president did when he became the president of Guyana is to set up an interministerial committee to rebuild Georgetown. $100 million have been set aside for the restoration of City Hall. And we are going to do it. The People's Progressive Party civic government is going to do it. Something that APNU could not do in 30-something years of being in government. You did not do that. But we will do it. And we will begin this year. They speak about development in Linden. The town council collected between 2015 and 2020 more than $1.6 billion in revenue. Bartica collected over $400 million in revenue. These are areas, these are urban areas where most of the coalition supporters reside. And what have they done? What have they done? But you know what? They used to reside there because Guyana and the political landscape is changing. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Onage, for those stellar contributions and for debunking the myth that APNU AFC always think that they have transport over certain sections of our society. Mr. Speaker, we have over 500 roads in communities that will be rebuilt. We have 70 NDCs that will now see greater enhancement where governance is concerned. But governance is something that the APNU AFC is scared of. They're scared of governance because, you know, the last elections, right? Well, by the way, they were also scared of elections too, Mr. Speaker, because they know that in a free and fair elections that they're going to lose. Anytime, anywhere, they're going to lose in a free and fair elections. And we know what happened since the 21st of December, 2018. The country knows what happened. And you know what else too, Mr. Speaker? You know what else? You know why they're so also scared of this year's budget, Mr. Speaker? Because a lot of it will rebuild community lives. And they're scared of local government elections too. So the Honorable Minister, I would like to commend him also for setting aside resources, and we are planning for local government elections in 2021. We have budgeted and we are planning. But you know what, Mr. Speaker, there is a caveat. We cannot continue to have any elections in this country. Anyone who believes in good governance, anyone who believes in transparency and accountability can never have Lowenfield, Myers, Mingo at the head of the Secretariat of GCOM. Never. We will not condone it. The majority of people in this country will not condone it. We will not condone it. And we are, Mr. Speaker, as the Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, I have the mandate of also announcing that date. And I would like to, Mr. Speaker, for you to use your good office to bring to the attention of the public in Guyana that Lowenfield must go, Myers must go, Mingo must go, and APNU AFC already gone. All right, Mr. Speaker. So we have a lot of work to do. And Mr. Speaker, we really need these elections this year because a lot of supporters of APNU AFC are meeting me every day. And they want to come on board. Some have also expressed interest in becoming community leaders and community councillors for the People's Progressive Party Civic. So we would like, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I would not, Mr. Mahipal, honorable members and my staff, so I will not give out all of the details. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, what has happened in 5 years of APNU AFC, it is not going to take just one budget. When they were spending, they were extravagant. When they were spending, did they care about any one of us? When we were normal citizens, did you ever see any one of the honorable members on the other side in our villages? Did they ever come to speak to us about development? Have you heard, and by the way, Mr. Speaker, if it is that they are so serious about representing people, have you seen the leader of the opposition in this house during the budget debate since Monday for more than 10 minutes? Why are they absent? And the people of Guyana must know this, that the leader of the opposition who claims to represent...
Honourable Member, I might interrupt you here, and to borrow from the Honourable Manzoor Nadir, I don't want to see you go so quickly, so you will need a 5-minute extension.
Mr. Speaker, only 5 minutes?
Mr. Speaker, I hate to interrupt my colleague's rhythm, but I would love to give him more time, as many of our colleagues, but I have to only restrict him to 5 minutes to conclude. My apologies, my dear comrade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister.
So, Mr. Speaker, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of cleanup to do. So we have been given a massive component in to do sanitation. So we have a lot of cleanup to do. Whilst we will be cleaning up the garbage that left by AP and UAFC, we also have to fix the many landfills in the country. It is one of, I think, is a national issue. And everyone in this country has to take pride in the way they dispose or in the way they manage solid waste in the country. Mr. Speaker, this year, Cell 2, very soon Cell 2, as a matter of fact, Cell 2 is available to receive garbage. And Mr. Speaker, not dead meat, Minister McCoy, but garbage. So we are ready to receive garbage in Cell 2, Mr. Speaker. We will be spending quite a substantial amount of resources in some markets. Monrepo market, which is one of the traditional markets on the East Coast, probably the biggest market on the East Coast. We will be spending an additional $70 million to do additional expansive work to enhance the facilities at Monrepo market, as well as the services that come out of that market. Mr. Speaker, in Region 3, one of the top markets is also Porica, and we'll be spending about $30 million to do some refurbishment work at Porica. Likewise, we'll be doing about similar amounts of work in Region 2. Mr. Speaker, the MP from APNU in Region 2 did not mention the callousness with which they managed Region 2 in their 5 years. As a matter of fact, a lot of those who were squatting as vendors in front of the police station were given permission by the former REO of Region 2. So we have to tidy up charity. We have to enhance the quality of services that we have in our communities. We have to continue to light up Guyana, because the PPPC is about the future. So we have to shine the light on the future, on or charting the course for our country. Mr. Speaker, we also have to, in our advancement of development in small villages, the Community Enhancement Worker Program too, Mr. Speaker, we have to get more people involved. We have very many small contractors who did not benefit from the last regime, who are now benefiting from the People's Progressive Party Civic in government. And we intend to expand that support that we give to all Guyanese. And this year, we are going to see a massive expansion in the enhancement of many of our communities. You're going to see billions of dollars flowing. And this is something that I don't think the last government really understand. They don't understand that when you put resources into communities, when you create businesses, pro-business, when you create businesses in communities, the people of the communities take ownership, people from the communities get employed, and both the domino and the symbiotic effects take place. 50,000 jobs are the minimum that we will achieve in 5 years, because we are going to be starting from the bottom up. We are building Guyana brick by brick, brick by brick. And in Ramjatan's village on the quarantine, I don't know when he went, Honorable Member, but they say one dirty does build dam. And People's Progressive Party Civic, we will leave no stone unturned until all of Guyana benefits from the resources of this country. It cannot just be like how the last government had it, locked away amongst ministers of the government. It cannot just be how the last regime had it, locked away amongst a handful of elite. Every single Guyanese will get an opportunity to grow in this country. Every single Guyanese will get an opportunity for good governance. Every single Guyanese has an opportunity now to play a role in the greater development of their country. Mr. Speaker, we have much more time to go, but I have many more erstwhile colleagues to continue this debate. So I thank you very much, and I look forward to all of you supporting the budget 2021 in this House. Thank you very much.